Hi, I'm Steve Benson. I'm CEO of Badger Maps, an application to help field salespeople, and I like to think that I'm an outlier.
Hey, everybody, welcome to Outlier on Air, the podcast where we interview founders, disruptors, and mavens. As always, I'm your host, Ever Gonzalez. On today's episode, we have Steve Benson. He is the founder and CEO of Badger Maps. Steve, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me here.
Hey, I'm excited to have you on here for actually quite a few different reasons. We want to get to know what Badger Maps is. I would love to hear about your history, right? You've been at Google, what is it, IBM, a few different, obviously big name corporations. I want to know why you took the leap from working at companies like that, which most people would find, a success to, jumping into this crazy world of entrepreneurship. So anyway, we'll get into that. But first of all, thank you for being on the show. We're really excited.
Yeah, this should be great.
Let's.
I'm a huge fan.
Good. I'm glad. I no doubt that you can bring a lot of value to our audience, so we're really looking forward to it. Now, let's kind of put this out there. Let's kind of paint the picture for our audience. Where are you calling us from right now?
I am in San Francisco, California, and our offices are located in North Beach.
North. Okay, so for the majority of people listening, right, that's almost the mecca of entrepreneurship. What's it like living there, working there, everything you're trying to accomplish there? There are pros and cons. Overall, what's your feeling?
I think it's a great place to start a business. I don't think it's the best place to scale a business. It's funny that it, I read an article the other day, Sergey Brin saying exactly the opposite. He said, "Oh, this is a terrible place to start a business, but a great place to have a business." And I was like, "Well, I mean, maybe if you're super rich."
That's right.
but from my perspective, it's a great place to start a business and to kind of incubate an idea, get things going, and run it down the line. Just because of the access to there's so many great incubators here. There's so many great angel investors here. There's so many great people a lot of people that have been through things before and have done it before and can kind of give you their take and sit down and have coffee with you and give you ideas. And the people that are here and the culture that surrounds there's a lot of people around that know how to build small businesses and kind of attack markets. So it's a great place to start a business. It is a tough place to scale a business. The brick and mortar costs are well, it's not only costly, but it's hard to find good space. It just doesn't exist. Hard to find great people because they're all they've already got a fantastic job with Google or
Sure.
Airbnb or Facebook, so it's really difficult to hire and retain great people in the Bay Area. Those are the downsides, and obviously the general cost of living and the I think it's 73% more expensive than your average place in America, which is a tough place to be if you're a startup where funds are usually relatively tight. So that's kind of my take. Great place to start a business, tough place to scale a business. But I've enjoyed being here, and I don't know if we would have done as well had we started somewhere else.
Well, we'll get to Badger Maps here in just a sec, but let's stay on this topic for a little bit longer. Cost of living, obviously San Francisco, one of the most beautiful cities in the U.S., right? A great place, like you mentioned, all the pros of other entrepreneurs and a lot of great resources. But cost of living is a huge deal for a lot of people, right? There are a lot of executives and upper middle class families or individuals there that are still living like in small little apartments, right? There's a cost to all of that knowledge and resources that you have in the Bay Area. You're not a native, right? So what brought you out there to start the company and how long are you going to be there?
So I moved out here after I graduated college in 2001, and I've been here ever since. I went to school out here, and I've been kind of floating around San Francisco ever since. Working in technology. I plan on staying. Badger 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 is planning on maintaining its headquarters here, but we've opened up offices in different parts of the world. We've got offices in the Philippines, in Spain, and in Utah that we're also scaling the business in those places as in addition to here. So that's kind of the I'll be based here and the company will be headquartered here for the foreseeable future. But that's kind of how we've balanced the downsides of the Bay Area with the upsides of the Bay Area.
Not a bad place to be. Good for you. I love that place. Now let's get into Badger Maps. What is it? How does it work?
Sure. So what Badger does, we've kind of focused on field salespeople, this group of people, and I my whole career was in field sales, and there are a variety of problems that they and challenges that they face that no other group really faces. They're extremely mobile. And when I say field salespeople, I mean like outside sales, people that are out meeting with customers face to face, trying to get business done. So maybe they sell supplies to dentists, or maybe they sell pharmaceuticals, or they sell wine to restaurants, or tires to tire stores. A million different things get sold through the hands of field salespeople, and they have a variety of challenges and problems that other people just don't have because they're so mobile, because they're out meeting with and doing business with people in the field. So we've built a variety of solutions and on our platform to help make their day go faster, more efficiently, easier, do a bunch of stuff that they kind of had to do by hand. Things like routing their day, scheduling their day, planning out who they're going to see and when, who to focus on. We do a bunch of stuff to make them more successful. So we've kind of carved off this one, and this is I like focus. I think in general it's great if a business can focus on their end user. So we've focused on this one end user of the product, and just we have sought ways to make their lives better and more effective, and that's been kind of our strategy.
So this is your background, right? In sales, specifically in tech. Can this help other industries as well? Door to door, that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah, I mean this is I mean not even that many of our customers are in tech. It's much more common.
Really?
A lot of software technology gets sold over the phone. So a software salesperson might have 8 meetings a day, but they're all sitting from a desk. Whereas there there are a lot of industries where things get sold with field salespeople. Technology is not one of them. I was in field sales and technology, so it does exist. It's just there's more inside sales than outside sales
Yeah.
going on in technology. But we're much more. You're much more like industries like construction and wholesale and basically a lot of the stuff. If you walk up and down Main Street USA that ended up on the shelves of the stores on Main Street at USA, or in the restaurant, or at the dentist's office, a lot of that stuff got there through a relationship that business owner had with a field salesperson.
How old's the company now?
We are 5.5 years old now.
Oh, a
So
little
we
bit
started
older
it.
than I thought. Yeah.
Yeah, we've been at this for a while at this point.
And the team? How big's the team?
I guess we have 50 something, 60, something like that. I think 54, 55. It changes.
So that's a good size company, right? And so obviously with the startups, that presents its own challenges. 5 years in, 50 to 60 employees, that presents a whole lot of different types of challenges. Uh, what are you struggling with right now when it comes to Badger Maps and what you're trying to accomplish?
I mean, our biggest challenge is that it's a noisy world.
Uh-huh.
There's a lot of stuff going on, and it's hard to get your message in front of the person that needs it, right? People are bombarded with 20,000 advertisements a day. How do you let the person that you kind of that you've solved their problem know, hey, we have things that make your life better. Check these things out. It's worth your time to, spend 20 minutes to set this up, and it's worth the 35 bucks a month or $9 a month depending on which one you get. And just check it out. It's going to make it'll make you'll save an hour a day and get, all these benefits. And it's hard to get their attention. Like once we've got their attention and we can kind of show them, hey, there's this thing, then it's great. But you can only get a fraction of your user base's attention. I think that's our biggest challenge is being like, hey guys, we're over here.
Mhm. So how are you addressing that problem?
Um, it's tough because so the we get most of our customers through word of mouth.
Really?
So our existing customers, the nice thing about field salespeople is they're often outgoing. They know a lot of people. They can communicate value very effectively. Like that's their job. They're drinking buddies, whatever it is. They're good at getting the word out. That's what they do. Um, and so that's been a really, that's probably our best way of finding new people. We find people with like natural search results, like people will kind of Google the problem and describe their problem to Google, and Google will say, hey, is this the thing you're looking for? So they'll type in, routing map for sales, or routing software, or whatever, sales mapping application, whatever they describe it as. Google will point them to us. So Google, and word of mouth are both, those are really important to us. I mean, we're on social media and everything else, but I don't think that a lot of the stuff we do from a marketing perspective doesn't touch those first two things.
So your pitch to these potential clients, customers, do they get it at first, or I mean, it's to me
Often,
right now it doesn't like there's some education part on your end that you have to put in front of your potential client. How does that work?
yeah. Well, so often a field salesperson will, if they land on our website and they kind of glance through what we're doing, they're like, oh yeah, I have that problem. Oh, it
Oh,
just does it automatically. They're like, they know that we're talking to them, and they're like either, you know, if a salesperson hears about us and they go to our website, either if they do most of their sales over the phone and don't really go out in the field, they can tell right away that we're not for them. If they're out in the field all the time, they can it's quick for us to speak to their pain points and to display maps are very visual,
hmm.
and at our core, we're putting their customers on a map and allowing them to do a whole bunch of stuff with that. And and so it's very visual. So as soon as they kind of land there, they're like, oh, that's the value proposition, and I see how they're doing that. That's cool. How do I set it up? And that's then that's the next challenge, is to get them to actually get people to actually take the time to jump on a phone call with someone for 15 minutes and have us set it up for them. I think we languish on people's to-do lists a lot. We call them back 6 months later and like, yes, I do want to do this. I've just been super busy, and it's a super busy group of people. They're running around trying to sell stuff, so it's a hard job, and they've got a long to-do list.
Are you
A lot of
selling
things,
to
a lot of
the
things on fire.
are you selling to the individual sales guy, or are you selling to the organization, or both?
Both.
Yeah.
We will go top. We'll have a VP of sales, or a sales operations or sales enablement person reach out to us for their whole team, and we've done Fortune 500 companies, the whole team. Uh, but we also have a lot of just individuals just show up and use it. And it's built to do both. I mean, it's got a lot of corporate. That's how we have different products, because we've kind of got the company based one, and it has a lot of like stuff that companies would want, and then we have kind of the stripped down version that's cheaper for individuals.
With are you? I'm assuming in the beginning you were doing a lot of the selling yourself. What's your role right now? Now that this company is 5 years old, right, with 50, 60 employees, what are you doing on a regular basis?
Not at all. But you're right. I mean, I was all I was doing the sales and the marketing and the customer success in the beginning. That all kind of rolled to me because I'm not technical or a product person. I'm more of a business person and salesperson, marketer, by background and skill set. So I've never gotten deeply into the technology side of the company. There are other folks on the team that focus on that. So yeah, initially I was really focused on sales and marketing and those types of areas that are kind of my natural strengths and where I can be useful. But now that we've got a whole team doing those things, the marketing team and the sales team and the PR team and the customer success team, they now I've backed away from a lot of that stuff. I'm not even really managing it all that closely. There's a VP of sales, they manage the sales, and director of marketing is running the marketing. I what do I spend my time on? I feel like I'm very, very busy. I honestly spend most of my time on like HR stuff and
Yeah.
coaching
How do
people.
you feel about that though? Right? Because a lot of times we jump out on our own to do these cool, exciting things. After a while, though, yeah, you're spending most of your time with issues with employees and things like that. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I like it. I
You
mean,
do.
we don't have. I don't deal with a ton of like issues. Like we've got a great team, and so I don't have to like it's not like I don't have to micromanage people and jump down their throats all the time. It's more just like coaching people, and I think a business leader needs to be a coach. They need to. The best way to approach it is to, how does a great basketball coach? They don't just say, "Hey, score some more points next game," or "Hey, give up less points, play better defense." They break it down. They say, "Okay, hey, I looked at our stats here. It looks like we could use some work on our free throws. So we're going to get these drills and kind of focus on the free throws and get good at that." Or I think our point guard needs to, if you're sitting down with the point guard, you can say, "Hey, I think you're doing a great job on dribbling and taking it to the hole, but I think the thing we got to work on is our passing," and so I try to be a coach with the team and work with them to improve their game basically, and I think that's probably what I spend most of my time on, is interacting with them, getting feedback from them, listening to their ideas so that we can, and then trying to grease the skids so that their ideas can be implemented, and we can, figuring out what the most important things are from them, what they're hearing from customers, and then trying to balance strategically where should the company go, what should we be focused on, what's the next thing that we should work on from a product perspective, what's the next thing that we should the next process that we can build or tweak on our end to make better. And it's a one of these businesses, it's a million little processes that your ways of doing things that you've got, and I think a big part of my job is figuring out how we're doing them, and can we do any of them better, and then enabling the people on the team that would be the ones that make it better to be able to do that.
Did you bootstrap this or did you receive funding?
It's bootstrapped. We did a friends and family round early on, but there's no venture capital money in the company.
So
So
what's the end game?
I mean, who knows, right? It's one of these software companies are tricky in terms of end game. Sometimes they get purchased by companies that you're kind of accretive with, and if they were to join forces, they were to add you to their product line, it would make some product of theirs a lot stronger. So there's some obvious choices there, like any of the big CRM companies. This is kind of would help them sell more CRMs, right? If they have this capability within their CRM, and it's defensive because they can take it away from their competitors.
Yeah.
Whereas right now we work with lots of CRMs, but if Microsoft wanted to, they get to take things like that away from people, so that if they own the thing. So they there's that exit to a large software company. There's just, especially because it's not VC funded, we can just keep rolling along, right? We're not on the same tight timeline that you end up on if you have venture money, because
Sure,
they
turn
need to
around.
give
Yeah.
their they need the most money out of the thing in the least amount of time, and and both of those variables are good. Are the bigger the money or the shorter the time, the better the return on their investment on their equity. So that can be that ends up challenging some companies because they try to grow as fast as possible, and even if it's at an unhealthy rate, and then you can get in a situation where they want a really big exit and they want it soon, and that can be hard to get, right? Whereas we don't have a timeline. We can just keep growing this thing and solving more problems for our end users, and they there's a lot of them out there, and maybe there's adjacent end users that we could solve their problems too. Like groups of people like real estate agents use this, and inspectors of things. So they're not salespeople, but they have if they're out in the field, they have very similar problems. Um, so I get from an end game perspective, there's we can just keep rolling along and keep growing and solving more problems and hiring more people and not really worry about the absolute end game, because growth kind of cures all
Sure.
ails in software. So
Yeah, luckily
um,
you're in a position where you don't have to worry about that right now. But are you trying to um, kind of position yourself one way or the other,
no,
or truly you're just going along doing your thing?
yeah, I mean, I think it's better for me to do my thing. I mean, if you know if one of these natural acquirers calls me up, I'm certainly taking the call, and we're chatting. But it's but we can stay the way we're doing it and just keep we're growing fast, and we're hiring a lot of people, and having fun doing it. And so we don't have there's no gun to anybody's head. And so if it's not the right fit, we don't have to get acquired, and we can just keep we pay for all the things with the revenue that comes in the door. So there's not too much pressure there.
So over the last 5 years, you've done a lot of different things to obviously run the company and grow to the size that you have with employee wise, growth wise. What does that look like? And maybe some of the successes and some of the pain points, and then where you're at now as far as growth.
Sure. I mean, growth of the business is growing pretty quickly. It's been doubling every year. Um, the last few years. In the beginning, there was almost no revenue. I mean, you kind of start out trying to solve the most basic level of your problem that people will pay for, and that took some time to even get something that was solving the basic problem that were the first things that we were trying to do. So that we didn't make any money for a little while, and
What's a
then
little while?
let me think. I mean, we were probably doing like under 10 grand a month until like mid 2015 or so.
Okay.
Um, we did do a couple big deals. We would have spiky months where we'd make a bunch of money come, but on the average month we wouldn't really make anything. And and then so we probably only did a $500,000 or something in like 2014. Um, but we've done a really nice job the last few years of growing faster. The thing is, once you solve the key problems and the word starts getting out there, there's momentum behind it, and your customer a lot of our customers end up buying a lot more because they came to us 2 years ago as an individual, and they've been using it for 2 years. Some person on the team's been using it for 2 years, and the manager is like, well, how are you doing this? How are you so organized? And they're like, oh, I've got this thing that does all this for me. And then the manager's like, well, is there a reason that this wouldn't help everyone else on the
Yeah.
team? And they're like, no, I mean, everybody should have this. I've been telling people for a while they should get it. Nobody listens to me. And because a lot of the field sales guys, they're kind of out in their own world,
Yeah.
right? And a lot of them they hardly know each other sometimes. There might be 20 salespeople covering North America, and they get together once a year at a boondoggle in Vegas, and they don't talk much other than that, right? Like they don't, they're because they're covering different geographic areas. One lives in Topeka, Kansas, and one lives in Redwood City, California, and they don't overlap. So the point being, word spreads over time, and if you are really solving problems for people, and they're happy enough with you that they want to tell other people about you, there's kind of this positive momentum behind the business, and so it just grows faster and faster, and the people that you solved their problem 3 years ago, they're still with you, right? So, in general, people don't stop using this once they start. Sometimes they do. They'll change out of a field role, or they switch jobs or retire or whatever. Like, we always try to get feedback from people when they do quit, but there's not but anyway, that's why there's a lot of momentum behind a business. Once, if you're doing a good job, as you grow, and you can really, you really start you start feeling the wind at your back. Whereas at first you feel so much, you're trying to bike uphill
Sure.
into the wind, and
So right now you
it's
feel like you're in the position where the wind's at your back now.
yeah.
Good.
Yeah, I mean, well, compared to army crawling up the hill in the glass like I
Uh-huh.
was for 3 years, but I mean, start getting a business. Businesses are like trains; they're really hard to get moving. But once they're moving, there's momentum behind them. There's inertia, and it's it was it was very slow and very painful the first several years, but then it's moving, and it gets a lot easier, and I think it gets the position it gets harder for competitors to go after you, and you get a brand name built around it. Not everyone's heard of us, but a lot of people have if they're in field sales, and so then they just kind of show up and buy. Whereas your cost of getting a customer is really high at first because they've never heard of you, they don't know what you do, your website sucks, your product doesn't work, and so when they do a trial, it breaks on and they have a bad experience, they don't buy it. But then once you've got everything kind of together and rolling smoothly and all the processes in place, it just you're tweaking with the system and making it tighter and better, but the system is functioning.
Which is nice. Good for you. And so now, obviously, we understand. I think the audience can feel, have an idea of what Badger Maps does, and who they help, and how they help them, right? So we know what the company is good at, what they do. Now, for you personally, as the founder, as an entrepreneur, right? What are you the best at? Right? You're good at a lot of different things, I'm sure, but what are you the best at? What makes you the most successful? Why are you at this point in your life?
Um, I, I don't, I'm not amazing at anything. I'm pretty solid on a lot of things. Like, I could get a B in most anything, but I there aren't a lot of things that I'm just like there's nothing that I'm like, oh, I'm the best in the universe at this. I performed very well in sales, and I've always been really good at sales. That's probably my natural strength, is kind of listening and building the relationships and understanding the problems that they really have, and then being able to map what I'm doing to that person's problems, and kind of show them why our solution is helpful. And I did that at IBM, I did that at Google, and that was probably always my strength. But I don't do a lot of that today at this company, obviously. But I think I'm best at um, helping employees reach their full potential.
That's
If there
good.
is one thing that I'm good at, it's like sitting down with people and being like, what activities are you really good at? What do you really enjoy? And here's the project for you to be working on next. Given that, I'm really good at moving the chess pieces around on the board, like my pieces. The people that are on the team, I'm good at putting them in the right positions, and kind of identifying, hey, this person's going to be great at this, or this person's not that good at this, but what if we moved them over here? And I'm a lot of the people that I hire are straight out of college, and out of our intern program. I've got a pretty well developed intern program that we built out here, And a lot of the point of that program is figuring out what is this chess piece? Is it a marketer? What type of marketer is it? Is it in which one of these five roles in marketing? Or is it a salesperson? Well, which type of salesperson? And then coaching them and building them. Once we identify this is the raw material, this is the clay that becomes this thing. This is what they enjoy, the activities they enjoy doing, and this is what they're good at this. Now we should train them to become this animal. Like that, but we're going to train them to be a fantastic content marketer because they have this skill and this skill and this skill, and they like doing this and this. So that maps well to starting your career in content marketing, and therefore I'm going to teach you how to do that, and we build out processes to make people great at things, and I think that's probably what I'm best at as a leader, is kind of identifying what to focus people on and what to have them do.
That's huge. That's obviously a talent, something that you need. Everybody needs at different companies. So, and you're that person. Good for you. With
Yeah, it's all they let me do around here.
nice. With looking obviously at your background, you could have had a nice living, happy life working at Google or IBM. Doing your thing there, and you could have been happy probably. What
Yeah,
what was that thought process when you were like, man, I have this cool job. I'm going to throw all that away, and I'm going to start this. And chances are it might not work, but I'm going to do it. What was that thought process, and what made you take that initial leap?
Well, I mean, so I was happy and I enjoyed working at big companies. I'm not a person that was like, oh, I hated being in a big company and I'm so frustrated and I just have to go off and do my own thing. It wasn't like that at all. Um, I really enjoyed, and nothing's bigger than IBM, right? I mean they got 400,000 employees or something. It's a crazy company. But and then Google, Google was a little more like, it's a big company, but it feels more entrepreneurial, kind of the way they have it broken up and the way they just the culture. But I mean, what I enjoyed that, and the pay's good, and Google's very comfortable to work. I mean, Google's a fantastic place to work. They take care of you and buy you lunch and dinner, and I was I I guess I could have a very I would have been certainly easier and more comfortable, and I would have worked less and with far less stress staying in the corporate world,
Sure.
right? I could be I could have, I don't know. I enjoyed it. It was good, but um, I guess I went this path because I think at my core I believe if you can create things, you should, because I think we're overcompensated for creating things. Like if you build a thing, it's just worth a lot of money because things are worth a lot once they're built. And so it's, if you can't, from a financial perspective, if you can't, if you are able to create new things that the world wants, and they want it, if they'll pay for it, um, if you are capable of doing that, then you're arguably overcompensated for it. Like I'm not working that much harder now than I worked at Google, for example, right? I mean, I was working pretty hard there. I get the last for the first 4 years of this or so, I was definitely working harder on this than I ever had before. But it was marginally harder. It's a little more painful, but the I was still, you're going to work hard in corporate America too, right? So those are demanding jobs. But you're overcompensated if you can successfully create something. So from a financial perspective, it made sense. But also just I think it's more fun to be a big fish in a little pond than it is to be a a little fish in a big
Yeah,
pond,
sure.
or even a bigger fish but in a giant lake, right? So it's just it's fun to kind of have your own thing and to create something, and kind of you can make it in your image, right? You can make it in the way you want it to be. Like like a couple weeks ago, I was like, I want to have a really progressive maternity leave policy, and and so I got to just design what I wanted.
You
I
made it
just sat
happen.
down with, yeah, I just got to sit down with the HR team, and 3 days later, I have a really progressive maternity and paternity leave policy that I wanted, that I felt was appropriate, and you just get to call shots of that nature and do things the way you want to do it and create the culture you want to create, and it's like your own little petri dish where you get to do whatever you want.
There
And
must have been moments though when you were like, "Oh, what did I get myself into?" Especially early
oh
on.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I mean, it's painful starting something because it doesn't work until it does, right? And you almost, it almost dies a million times. And bootstrapping is a sick form of torture, but then when you come out on the other end without not beholden to anybody, it seems like a great idea after you get through it. And that doesn't mean we'll never raise money. I mean, it might be the right thing to do at some point, but it might have been the right thing to do 4 years ago.
sure.
Um, but
But you're making it happen.
yeah, yeah. I'm really happy with the decision to kind of leave the corporate track and build a thing. Um, it's certainly not for everybody. It's a lot harder. I mean, everyone imagines that it's very difficult. It is more emotionally and it is more emotionally and mentally taxing than one can imagine until one's done it. And I felt like I was pretty well positioned to do it, and still it was way harder than I would have guessed. I mean, just really, 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 really challenging. And but if you're up for the challenge and you actually think you got something that you could create, I think it's worth taking a cut at, because regardless, you're going to learn a ton, even if you just have to live in your mom's basement for a couple of years and don't make any money. Like, so you retire 3 years later and your thing didn't work. No big deal.
That's
Like,
right.
it's not the end of the world. And you probably learned more than you certainly would learn more than you ever could have in a larger company, just because you have so much more responsibility, and what you're doing touches so many more areas, and you're really accountable. Um,
You know,
and
I like that you saw some success in corporate America. Obviously, you're seeing some success now in the startup world. With everything that you've done, all the success, all the the ups and downs, all that good stuff. You're still in the trenches, like a lot of our audience right now. They're building their own companies, or they're working a 9 to 5 with a side hustle, that kind of stuff. With everything that you've experienced overall, what kind of advice do you have for them? Right? What can we take from you that'll get us to that next level?
advice. Well, I guess you know. Well, my first tip for anyone who's starting a business is focus on the money. Focus on bringing in revenue as quickly as you possibly can. Money is the lifeblood of a business. So you've got to monetize. You've got to find the people that are in the most pain and get them to pay you. And if they're not willing to pay you, then your thing needs more work, or it's very likely you're chasing the wrong tree, and you've got to pivot a little bit. Um, so that's the first thing that kind of jumps out at me. No, focus on who that first those first customers are going to be. What do they look like? What industry are they in? What is their title? Talk to talk to 50 of them. Like, get them on the phone. Find them through LinkedIn, and get them on the phone and talk to them, and ask them, if I build this, would you buy it? I'm going to try to, I'm trying to figure out exactly what to build here, but this is the problems that I think you have, and I think I'm hearing from you. If I were to build this thing that would solve that problem, would you purchase it? Um, so that's kind of the first thing. I guess on another track, get things done in little pieces. Like, just keep moving the ball downfield, build a simple process, and start getting something done. Don't make things perfect. The 80/20 rule is weird, is real, and you can get a lot of stuff done and working very quickly with minimal effort, and then you can start optimizing it and making it better and better. Um, but this is a business is really hard and there's a million things to do, and you just gotta, be happy at the end of the day when you've taken a whole bunch of little baby steps on your different projects and move things down the line a little bit.
I love it. Makes
Um,
sense, right?
you know, and another thing I'd mention in terms of advice, and I didn't make this up. I've made almost nothing up. I have very few ideas. I just repeat ones that I've heard.
That's right.
So that this particular one uh, when I was graduating business school at Stanford, they kind of have like a final talk that they gave us, and one of the main points in that talk that I remember, they were trying to, like, give us the final messages before they send us out of the world to hopefully accomplish something with our lives. Um, it was I forget which professor it was, but it was one of the relatively famous professors got up there, and he was like, you hear a lot about work-life balance. Now is not the time in your life to have a great work-life balance. It you should you're young, you're ready to take on the world right now. Don't have a work-life balance. Worry about work-life balance when you're a little older and have kids and a spouse, and maybe you already have those things, but you're you're still youngish right now, and now is not the time to have a work-life balance. Now is the time to really get after it and take some lumps, and I really believe that when you're if you've got gas in the tank, get after it while you're young and while you can, because you don't get that many shots. You might get a few shots on goal in really your whole life, a few actual decisions and a few opportunities to really really build something out, or really do something, or really accomplish something in whatever field you're in, whether it's business or table tennis. I don't know, but you only get a few shots, and be intense, and go after it, and try to get it done, and really, like, give it your all, because you don't want to look back and say, oh, yeah, that didn't work, but maybe it would have if I had just tried a little harder, and worked later, and really actually gave it my actual all, instead of my 60% or my 80%.
That's good advice. So outliers, obviously, this is the kind of stuff that why you listen to the show. This kind of advice, this the good, the bad, and the ugly of every entrepreneur story that's been on the show. Steve is no exception. Steve, for those that are listening that want to connect with you, want to check out what you're doing, where can we find you online?
I'm easy to find on LinkedIn, and I post a bunch of stuff on there. So I'm Steve Benson, or I don't know if I'm maybe Steve N. Benson. If you just put Steve Benson Badger into LinkedIn or Google or whatever, I'm easy to find. I the if For all your listeners that want to try this thing out, just mention this show when you call in to one of the folks on the team, and they'll give you a free 2 months of it, just to kick it around, as a reward for listening to me, and enduring my blathering for the last half hour here.
Not at all. It's been great. It's been great. Outliers, take advantage of this, right? Reach out to Steve and connect with him. If this is the field you're in, take advantage of it. Steve, hey, this has been amazing. We really appreciate you taking the time to talk to us, for your words of wisdom, for telling us and letting us into your entrepreneurial journey. We obviously wish you much success. We're going to have you back on the show in 3 years, and we'll see what we're talking about then, right? It's going to be a fun journey no matter what. So again, thank you for being on the show.
That's fantastic. I've really enjoyed being here, and I really appreciate it.
I love it. So Outliers, we'll talk to you tomorrow.